Picture this. You come home after a long day,
Mhm.
expecting to see your teenage daughter, and instead you find something unimaginable.
Yeah, it's like a parent's worst nightmare, right?
It is. And this actually happened on May 27th, 1994, in Castro Valley, California, a seemingly safe suburban town.
A tragedy that really shook the community to its core. I mean, everyone felt so vulnerable after that.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today, the unsolved murder of 14-year-old Jenny Lynn.
A case that's as baffling as it is tragic.
We're going to unpack everything, the events leading up to that day, the clues, the suspects, everything.
It's going to be a deep dive.
It is. Jenny was, a bright girl,
Yeah.
straight-A student, loved music. Everyone loved her.
And that's what makes this case so strange. There's no clear motive, no forced entry, no signs of sexual assault, no robbery. It's like the only goal was to take Jenny's life.
Chilling, right?
Absolutely.
And then the crime scene itself is a whole other puzzle.
Oh, yeah. A lot of strange things there.
A broken window in the dining room, but it was staged. The curtain was messed with glass.
Like someone was trying to make it look like an accident.
Exactly. And then the sliding glass door was unlocked.
A possible staged exit?
Maybe. Were they familiar with the house? Do they know the family's routines?
Lots of questions right from the start.
And get this, the family dog was outside in his run that day, but never barked.
That is odd. Wouldn't a stranger, especially someone coming to do harm, cause the dog to react?
You'd think so, right?
Unless the dog knew the person.
Or were somehow kept quiet. It's just another layer of weirdness.
For sure.
The police, they talked to everyone, family, friends, trying to figure out Jenny's day.
I bet.
She went to school. She talked to friends on the phone. Normal teenage stuff. Planned to watch a movie later.
So normal, and then suddenly this horrible thing happens.
I know. And then there's this encounter John Lynn had a few weeks before.
Oh, yeah. That's creepy.
He was at the BART station, and a man came up to him saying he had John's daughter.
Chilling. Especially knowing what happened just weeks later.
Right. Was it a coincidence?
Hmm?
A mistake?
Eh.
Or something more?
It's hard to say, but it definitely adds to the mystery.
Definitely. And as we go deeper, we'll see how even the smallest details might be important.
We'll look at everything, the investigation, the evidence, all the twists and turns that have kept this case unsolved for so long.
It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
It really is. We have this crime scene that seems deliberately manipulated. Were those red herrings meant to throw off the investigation?
Or were they clues pointing to the killer?
So many questions.
So many questions, and we're going to try to unpack them all.
We'll look at the potential suspects and see what fits and what doesn't.
It's going to be fascinating.
Absolutely. So buckle up, everybody.
We're going deep.
Deep into the mystery of Jenny Lynn's murder.
So where do we start with a case like this?
Well, the police, they naturally focused on people in Jenny's life at first. People who might have known her or her family.
Makes sense, especially when the crime scene suggests some level of familiarity, right?
Exactly. One of the first people they looked at was Doug.
Doug.
Yeah, a 22-year-old guy living in the neighborhood.
And his dad owned a business sharpening surgical instruments.
So Doug would have access to tools that could have been used in the crime.
Right, and his alibi for that day fell apart. He even failed a polygraph test.
Wow. Sounds like they had their guy.
You'd think so, but the physical evidence didn't match up.
Like what?
Fibers from his car didn't match those at the scene, and they did this weird test with duct tape tearing patterns.
Duct tape tearing patterns.
Yeah, they tried to see if the tape used on Jenny matched the way Doug tore tape, but no dice.
Huh. So he seemed suspicious, but the evidence wasn't there.
Exactly. Were there any other potential suspects in the neighborhood?
Well, there was this guy named Alan who lived a few doors down from the Lynns.
Few doors down.
Yeah, and get this, his house was the same model as the Lynns, just reversed.
That's so creepy.
Right. And he knew Jenny because their daughters went to the same school.
Oh, no.
He even drove both girls to school sometimes.
That's too close for comfort. Did they look into him?
Oh, yeah. They found a roll of duct tape in his car trunk, the same brand used on Jenny.
So that's it.
Not quite. The FBI analyzed it and confirmed it wasn't the same roll.
Ugh, another dead end.
And again, fibers from his car didn't match those at the scene.
So frustrating. They were so close with both Doug and Alan, but just couldn't connect them.
It's like the killer was either super careful or super lucky.
Maybe both. But let's talk about Sebastian Shaw now.
Ah, yes. The guy found sleeping in a stolen car in Oregon.
With all that creepy stuff, right? Duct tape, handcuffs, weapons books on, killing and torture.
It was a bizarre collection of items.
So what's the deal with him?
Well, at first he was just a blip on the radar. The duct tape in his car didn't match the type used on Jenny.
Okay.
But years later, he was arrested for multiple murders and a sexual assault in Oregon.
Well, hold on. So this guy was a serious criminal.
Big time. And his crimes in Oregon had some similarities to Jenny's murder.
Like what?
He liked to bind his victims with cords, and in one case he used duct tape.
Just like Jenny.
Yeah, and the brutality of his attacks, the way he controlled his victims, it all seemed to fit.
So did they finally connect him to Jenny's murder?
They tried really hard. They even went back and tested stuff from that car he stole back in the 90s.
Huh?
No DNA match to any evidence at Jenny's house.
It's amazing how technology can breathe new life into old cases.
It really is, but in this case it wasn't enough.
So if his DNA wasn't a match, how did they keep investigating him?
Well, a former cellmate of his came forward claiming Sebastian had bragged about killing at least 10 people.
10 people?
Yeah, and this cellmate said Sebastian had been in California around the time Jenny was murdered.
Wow, that's a huge lead.
It was, but they still needed concrete evidence, so they got a new DNA sample from them, just in case.
Did that change anything?
Sadly, no. Despite all this suspicion, they couldn't tie him to the crime.
And Sebastian.
He denied any involvement until he died in 2021.
Man, it's heartbreaking to think he might have taken the truth to his grave.
It really is.
So did the police look into any other angles?
They did, given the staged crime scene and how personal the attack seemed. They thought the killer either knew the family well or had been watching them.
That's a terrifying thought, someone lurking around watching your every move.
It is, and it adds another layer of complexity to this whole thing.
For sure. So if they couldn't find a clear suspect, did they at least figure out a motive?
Not really. Nothing was stolen. There was no sexual assault, so it seems like harming Jenny was the only goal.
And the staging.
That points to someone trying to control the narrative, maybe to throw off the investigation or protect themselves.
Like they were sending a message, but we don't know what it was.
Exactly. It's incredibly frustrating after all these years and all these leads. Jenny's case is still unsolved.
But they haven't given up, right?
No, they keep looking at the evidence and exploring new leads as they come up.
And technology's always improving.
That's right. They still have some foreign DNA from Jenny's house that they're analyzing.
So there's still hope.
There's always hope. You never know what new evidence or new technology might reveal.
Fingers crossed. It would be incredible if they could finally solve this case.
It would bring so much closure to the family and the community, and it would be a reminder that even cold cases can be solved.
It happens sometimes.
It does, and sometimes it comes down to someone coming forward with information.
Even if it seems small.
Exactly what might seem insignificant to one person could be the missing piece for investigators.
So if anyone out there knows anything about Jenny Lynn's case, please speak up.
You never know, your tip could be the one that brings justice for Jenny and her family.
You know, it's just unimaginable what Jenny's parents, John and Maine, have gone through.
Absolutely, losing a child like that, and then to have so many unanswered questions, it's just devastating.
But they did something really amazing in the midst of all that grief.
Oh yeah, the Jenny Lynn Foundation.
Exactly. They turned their pain into something positive. Something to honor Jenny's memory and protect other children.
It's really inspiring.
It is so. Tell me more about the foundation. What do they do?
Well, they're all about child safety, education and awareness programs. They work with schools, community groups, all sorts of things.
That's great. What kind of things do they teach?
Personal safety, internet safety, abduction prevention, all kinds of stuff to empower kids and parents.
That's so important these days. Are there any specific programs that stand out to you?
Yeah, the Jenny Lynn Walk, for sure.
Tell me about that.
It's held every year on the anniversary of her death. It's a way to remember Jenny, raise awareness about child safety, and just keep her case in the public eye.
That's powerful.
It is. You see community members, law enforcement families impacted by similar tragedies. It's really moving.
It speaks to the incredible strength of John and Maine to turn their grief into this force for good.
It really does. They could have easily retreated into their pain, but they chose to make a difference.
And Jenny's legacy lives on through that work. She's not just a victim, she's a symbol of hope.
Exactly. So where do things stand with the case now?
Yeah, is there any chance they'll ever find her killer?
Well, it's been a long time, but investigators haven't given up. They're still looking at the evidence and exploring new leads.
That's good to hear.
And technology is always advancing. They're still analyzing that foreign DNA from the house. You never know what they might find.
So there's still hope?
Always. And sometimes all it takes is one person coming forward with information.
Like maybe someone remembers something they saw or heard that seemed insignificant at the time, but could be crucial now.
Exactly. So if you know anything about Jenny Lynn's case, please contact the authorities.
Even the smallest detail could make a difference.
It really could. You could help bring justice for Jenny and her family.
This deep dive has been a roller coaster of emotions. heartbreaking to hear about this tragedy, but also inspiring to see how John and Maine have responded.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's still hope, and that good can come from even the most terrible things.
Jenny's case may be unsolved, but her story and her family's strength continue to resonate with people, even after all these years.
And hopefully someday we'll have the answers we've been searching for.
Until then, we keep Jenny's memory alive and we never give up hope.
That's right, justice for Jenny.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the unsolved murder of Jenny Lynn.
It's been a privilege to explore this case with you.
And to all our listeners out there, stay safe, and remember, even the smallest detail can help solve a case.
Let's bring those responsible to justice.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.